This is Professor Edward Blakely. Welcome to Future Cities.
You've written a paper on something called value capture. Now, the easiest way to explain value capture is to talk about land and its value, I understand, and how you capture some of that value. So let's illustrate that. We have a monopoly set here, and in monopoly, every piece is worth something, right?
That's right.
So if we're going to talk about value capture, what's the first thing? If you landed on a piece of land, you have to have a transaction. You have to purchase it. So what's the first thing?
So if you land on, let's take Leicester Square to start with, it immediately, and you want to buy it, that land is worth $260 on the Australian Monopoly Board. However, if you want to improve the value of that land, you can purchase a house. Now, one house on Leicester Square improves the value of that land, but it costs you $110 to put one house on.
Why?
Because that's the price it has on the card, but also because you're improving the value of your land, that is the cost it's going to cost to first make the house, but also to provide a public contribution back to the society that is giving you an approval to build one house.
Yeah, but they're putting a sewer in, they're putting a street in, and providing you access to a school, a playground, and other things that may be in that neighborhood, right?
That's right. And they're all things that they have to contribute to make this house livable. It's not going to be livable without sewerage, and they have to make a contribution. That's part of the $110 on the card.
Okay.
Now, it may be, however, that they might want to seek to put more value on their property.
Because the property is a little bit bigger and you can put a little more on it, right?
That's right. And again, that if they want to have 3 houses on it, that makes it worth $800.
So the property is going up in value because you're putting more stuff on it.
And you're getting a better and higher use for it by being able to have 3 houses.
With more houses, I've got to have more other things. Don't I have to have a school or a child care center or something there?
I can do it. One way is the government could come in and buy Leicester Square before anything is built on it. It could then rezone it for medium density housing, add some of the parks, and then it's adding value to its own land, which it can then sell, and then it's the public have created the benefit and are reaping the profits and the benefits to it. Another mechanism is they could come in and say, well, if we're going to build this park, and if we're going to let you have that high density, and if we're going to fund and build a public transport system right to your door, you should be required to be levied and taxed through a special council rate or through a special state municipal charge to fund either the ongoing operational costs of that railway or the maintenance of that park, or the capital required to build that railway or to purchase the land for that park.
But if I live next door to it, do I pay more than a person who lives 5 blocks away?
It's reasonable to say that if you're within 500 metres of the railway station, which in planning terms is a 5-minute walk to the railway station, your property is going to be worth more than someone who might be 800 metres or even be further than that from the railway station. So the contribution can be staggered spatially so that those who are getting the most benefit pay more, and those who are getting least benefit pay less, and those who are getting no benefit don't pay anything at all.
All right, so that's another way. Are there other ways?
Well,
to capture value?
the easiest way to do it is, and none of these options are really easy, but the simplest way to do it is to have a land tax on the entire monopoly board. And so if your land is worth more, i.e. Mayfair, you will be paying a substantially higher amount of tax each year to fund the services that the city needs. But if you're at a poor block of land, Old Kent Road in this case, you would be paying a lot less. And then if I improve the value of your land by building a train station right next door to your Bond Street, that increases the value of Bond Street because it's suddenly connected. It's connected to its jobs and the services. Suddenly you have transport choice. The value of that land goes up, and similarly the tax on that land would go up. But at the moment in New South Wales, we rarely levy a land tax. We don't levy it on the family home, which is usually the most valuable bit of property. And there are so many exemptions that land tax actually doesn't make too much money for the
But there
public.
is one tax that does make a lot of money, and that is when you sell your property, there's a stamp duty. And what if half of that money went to improving the neighborhood, which the property was sold, and the other half went to the treasury? And then you could put in new light rail and other things in those neighborhoods where the transactions are, because they're usually the higher density neighborhoods.
That's right. And if you hypothecate at least a portion of the stamp duty or whatever other property taxes to providing extra services in those regions, well, the case can be made to actually then increase even further again the density of that land, and you get a virtuous cycle. The greater the density, the higher the amenity, because you've got more services, you're going to have extra train lines, better potentially bigger or better or better designed open space, and you get a virtuous cycle where the more you improve the amenity, the more money the government or the public gets in return.
So this is very much like monopoly. In monopoly, when you land on certain properties, you pay more for them, and it costs you something to build on them. But if someone else lands on your property, they got to pay for occupying it.
That's right. They got to pay rent.
So they've got to pay a rent. And if we're all on the same board in the same city, we all ought to share in the rents for that public transportation system and other amenities that makes it worthwhile to live in that city.
That's right.
So that is value capture. Well, this is going to be a long journey into the future, and we're going to need a lot of help. Thank you, Sean, for giving us some ideas. We're going to need a lot more ideas to get there, and I hope we can with the resources we have. It's not certain, but Sean Mackin has been courageous enough to come up with one scheme. There'll be many, many other schemes. Which one will work will depend on all the efforts we put into it. Saying it's just another tax or another way to do taxes, of course, that's correct. But during the Depression, during the hard times we've had everywhere in the world, we built the future on making a sacrifice in the present. We'll have to do that again. Thank you for listening to this presentation. There'll be more. Watch us on YouTube at Blakely City Talks and listen to us here. Thank you very much. See you again.